everybody, you are potentially seeing just darkness because apparently I have very little light out here on a Sunday evening. But so I'm going to be introducing the next weekly installment of Every Book All at Once. Up until this point I've basically been waiting until like Monday evening to come at you guys and do like my new roles, but I find Monday workday to be excruciating, not knowing what my new goal is going to be. And so I've decided, you know what, let me just change things around a little bit, and I'm gonna do my roles now already, and then we'll just figure out what I'll be reading throughout the week now, and hopefully that'll make my Monday less excruciating. But so, Every Book All at Once is a project that I started 6 weeks ago because we're going into week 6 right now, and in this project I basically am reading every book that I own, or like all of the unread books that I own all at once, with sometimes a few extras based off of, you know, like readathons and stuff like that. So I'm currently of course also taking part in magical readathons, so there are a few books that I'll have to add to this project. At this point in time I'm reading 21 books at the same time. I did make some progress last week to some extent, but I also added quite a few books last week. So this week we are hoping to either be able to really increase the percentages of all of my, or some of my currently reading books, or to finish some of them, but it'll depend on what the goal is going to be. When it comes to these challenges, I always have 2 goals for the week. I have a reading goal and I have an activity goal, and then I also have the potential of a benchmark. A benchmark basically meaning a percentage that all of the books need to be at before the end of the week. And if I make that benchmark, then the next week the benchmark pauses. If I don't, it moves up by 2%. I might have to review that percentage rule at some point in time, if like the moment in which less books are being read, I might be able to up the percentage a little bit on that, but at the time being I'm quite comfortable with it moving just to 2%. So the benchmark was on pause last week, but it is going to move up at 2%, and so the benchmark for this week is 10%, meaning that I have some 6 or 7 books I think at this point in time which needs to have a little bit of an increase in the page numbers of what I've read in order for them to get to 10%. I think for the most of them it is 2% that I need to add. Some of them it's only 1%, one of them it is 3% because it's a book that I started throughout last week and there was no benchmark last week, so I didn't get to the 8% benchmark, which was the previous benchmark. But so let's just go ahead and roll for my next goals so that I know what I'll be focusing on for the week to come. So I will be starting a screen recording. Yeah, so screen record should be recording now. Let's look at the reading goal for this week. Ideally actually off of these reading goals that I haven't had yet, it needs to be something like neutral, like read 900 pages, or potentially the one to finish 2 books. That might also be a nice one for this week. Alright, so I need to alphabetically organize the authors that I'm reading from and make progress in 5 of the ones that have like the authors at the very top. And I'll say right now that that is like surnames in alphabetical order. So I'll have to do some research into that to know which ones those are. And then the activity goal is going to be, what I definitely don't want is museum. Oh, a puzzle. So I have to build a puzzle. That's nice. That is a nice activity to combine with an audiobook, and I do have 2 audiobooks currently going on, 4 books that are part of this. No, one of them is part of the project, the other one now is because I've already started it, but the other one is basically just there for magical readathon. But so I do have some audiobooks that I can use this for, so that should be fine. So yeah, I'm not too bad, I'm not too mad about those goals. They're fine. But so yeah, let's get this vlog underway. I on my end am still going to kind of round off the reading for week number 5, but now at least I know what I'll be focusing But now at least I know what I'll be focusing on in week number 6.
Morning. So, I figured out the 5 books that I need to be making progress in for my main goal this week. The good news is that I checked in with people over on my Discord, and according to them, make progress in means as little as 1 page. But I'm gonna do better than that. And so I think throughout the week, my goal is going to be, so I always set my alarm clock for 6. A lot of times I only get out of bed at 7. But so my goal is going to be that in that time, whatever time I actually am able to turn on the lights, I'm going to be reading until 7. So today that means about 40 minutes reading. So it's been a good day. It's the first day. We might not get the similar type of progress the rest of the week. But today we are reading the author that has a last name that starts with an A. So today we are reading Your Blood, My Bones by Kelly Andrews. So I am uh, 10% into this. So it means that I didn't need to make progress normally within this week because I've already reached the benchmark with this book. But who knows, maybe within these 40 minutes we can get to the 12%, which would mean that the next time the benchmark moves, this book is also safe. So yeah, let's see where we get. You know, when I started this challenge, I'm pretty sure all of these books fit onto the top of that cart. How did we get here?
And welcome to my first episode of Charmed, the original, you might say.
Morning, guys. I am home right now because I am feeling like crap. So I woke up this morning and my stomach just hurt a lot. So I don't know whether it's last night's pizza that is not going down very well or whether it's just a combination of just like having a little bit of a cold and not sleeping well and so my immune system not being at the greatest. But okay, so we are home right now. This morning I read a little bit in Kushiel's Mercy, which is by Jacqueline Carey, so that's the next name in the alphabet. I haven't been making much progress in this book technically. This is the book that I first started in this project because this is a book that I've been like very, very slowly reading in since June. So basically just like a few chapters every month in that time period, more or less. I'm now 17% into it, and yeah, I'm enjoying it. And I think slow and steady is my preferable like way of going through these books, but maybe a little bit faster than what I'm currently doing would be better. But like, I enjoy them in the moment, but I also feel like if I go through them like in one go, it feels very, very slow and I get kind of impatient with it. Whereas if I'm taking my time like I am now, I don't have those feelings because I'm just tackling a few chapters here or there. And then, yeah, now I've just been sat on the sofa. I feel like the stomach has settled down a little bit, as in, like, the moment I was waking up, I was just like, it was just grumbling the entire time, and it was just so much gas. But now it's settled down to some extent, but it's just really still painful, mainly. Um, so I've just been lying here, and I've been listening to The Sky on Fire, because, yeah, that doesn't, like, I can listen without, you know, the only thing I can do lying down otherwise would be sleeping, which I'm not gonna lie, that would be good for me, but I also feel like I am too awake to sleep. But maybe a little bit, maybe in a while, I'll be able to sleep for a little bit as well. So that would probably also be better. But so yeah, not feeling great, not great timing. So let's hope it's just like today, and it's really just like a stomach bug, as a, like it that is just like a due to the pizza because then it will just be like a 1 day thing because of course next week I'm on holiday and I don't want to be sick on holiday. Like yes, nowadays you can like there's a new rule that if you fall ill on your holiday you can reclaim those days, but still like we just want to go on holiday next week, okay? I just want to have all my energy, mental and physical, next week. But so yeah, I'm probably gonna lay down a little bit now and maybe just have something on the TV. And that will hopefully be the best way to kind of induce myself into sleep, which I think I need. Hello. So it is the next evening. Luckily, I did have a short turnaround when it comes to like feeling bad yesterday. So I did already feel a ton better today. I did still have a little bit of the stomach issues like early in the day, but then throughout the day it kind of disappeared. But so this morning I started with Fathom Folk by Eliza Chan. This is basically like the book on my TBR currently that I'm least interested in, and that is because I soft DNF'd it in July. So at the end of July, I decided like I'm not feeling this book. I'm gonna put it down for a little bit. But then of course I started this project like 2 weeks later or something like that. So I did start it pretty quickly again, but I have definitely been going through this one really, really slowly. And I also feel like, on Monday and Tuesday for the book that I was picking up, I basically spent like the entire time reading it before like 7 o'clock. And so I spent the entire time reading, going through the books and being like, ooh, intrigued, moving forward. But then this morning with Fathom Folk, it was really just like I read a chapter or two, I think, and then I was like, okay, calculating, okay, I'm at 10%, it's fine, I can stop this now for now. So I'm really not into it yet, and but I am going to give it more time. I'm going to give it more before I definitely decide to give up on it because in my reread, I'm really still in the setup stage of this book, and so I feel like I should give it a little bit further for it to kind of be like a little bit through the main action of the book before I decide whether I want to really hard DNF it this time around. But so yeah, I've been editing most of my after work time today, and then I've been making dinner, and throughout that I was listening to The Lantern of Lost Memories, which is turning out to be quite different than what I expected to some extent. Because I expected it to be like Before the Coffee Gets Cold. I was expecting it to be like a collection of these, like a few short stories, and to some extent I guess it is, but I have like an hour left in the audiobook and I've listened to like the story of like two people. So I don't know whether we're still gonna get like a third person because I feel like the stories of these other people have also always been like 2 hours or so in the audiobook. So it would be like a shorter version. So I don't know what this final hour of this audiobook is going to entail, but I definitely felt like it was going to be more sort of like short snippets, and it definitely is more in depth like in the stories of these different people as I expected it to be. So in Lantern of Lost Memories we basically are in the in between life and death. So after you die you go to this place, and there's this guy who basically helps you kind of go through pictures of your life, and you have to kind of sort through them and figure out which picture for each year of your life you want to kind of be the moment that flashes before your eyes before you pass away. And then he also gives you the opportunity to kind of go back in time and revisit like one moment of your life to kind of capture that memory better than any of the other memories. And so that section is the main section of each of these stories, and that's kind of the section in which these people will kind of talk more freely about their past and like what's the importance of this moment is. And so I've really enjoyed it so far, and we've had like two very diverse characters. So the first one was like an older lady, so that was just like more like expected story, I guess. And then the second one is like a basically a Yakuza crime boss who like has been found killed with like a blade stuck through his stomach. So a completely different type of person, but I've enjoyed it so far. Like it's nothing groundbreaking, nothing to be like, okay, drop what you're doing and read this book. But I definitely enjoyed it. And I think like if you like that type of Japanese literature, the way that I tend to enjoy, then you'll probably also enjoy this experience as well. But so yeah. I'm going to be reading a little bit in The Silver Blood Promise now before bed, and then I'll just call it a night. So not the biggest success night in terms of reading, I think, though I probably got through quite a few pages in Lantern of Lost Memories uh, overall today, but so not the biggest reading day in any case. But yeah, I did have to get through quite a long video in terms of editing, so I'm still pretty happy with how much I got through today in the end. So yeah, tomorrow is another day, and it won't be a super focused day on reading, I think, neither, but we'll just be chipping away at it, and hopefully altogether that will result in me figuring out my magical reader on TBR and finishing it. Morning. I just read some in Timeline by Michael Crichton. I had to say that I have to like wake myself up quite a few times throughout it. Like it is definitely the case that I'm just tired, like it isn't fully the book. But yeah, this is another contender for like the books that I'm least interested at the moment. Like I am really interested in the majority of the books I'm currently reading. And but so Phantom Folk and Timeline are the ones that are like, if I didn't have this sort of like benchmark, or in this case also the reading goal, making me read them, then they would probably be the last books that I'm picking up. They'd be the ones that just be left by the wayside until such a time in which I've read everything else, I guess. But so at the moment, I'm not really into these, and I could see myself potentially DNFing them. But as I said, I'll give both of these more of a shot until they're somewhat like they've done their sort of like groundworks. Because when it comes to Timeline, like based off the title, of course, I know that this is going to be a time travel novel, but it's definitely just like doing all of the setting up now. Right now, there's just like this mysterious guy that has been found by the wayside, and then like his MRI results are weird, and we have like an investigator who's somewhat intrigued about finding out more, and then we see the people of his organization who are now going off to France, where there's some sort of a project involving some old ruins that the guy had like a map of them in his pocket. So not much to go off of there yet, but so yeah, it hasn't really been calling to me yet. It hasn't really intrigued me, but we'll see. Like, so for the time being, both of these books can just kind of slowly go ahead until such a time in which I have less books going on at the same time, in which I might be able to like make more decent progress on it. By that time, I might be more intrigued, or at the time I might find out that, even when they're the only ones left, I'm not really all that interested and I might DNF them. But so yeah. Time to get this workday started now. So yeah, let's go. Hello. Yeah. Sure. So it is Friday. I am again working from home because everybody else is gonna be work from home, and so I was like, okay, I'm not gonna go to the office alone either, like. So I am working from home, which means that I most likely won't be able to get myself to the swimming pool because I already feel like I won't be doing that. But I thought I'd give you guys an update, and I feel like I have to rewatch some of my clips from earlier this week because I'm not entirely sure that I talked about my experience with the sky on fire. but I'll have to rewatch it. I'm not going to do that in this clip. If I have to, I'll talk about it a lot later, I guess, within this video. But so let's go back 2 days. 2 days ago, I finished, or was it yesterday? It was yesterday. Yesterday I finished The Lantern of Lost Memories. I don't remember the name of the author. I think it's also Sayaka. Or it's a name with an S. But so this is a book translated from Japanese. It is a book in which we have people who pass away basically go through some sort of an in-between realm where they meet their guides, and the guide that we're following is basically a guy who is in a sort of like photo studio, and he gets sent like all the pictures for that people have taken or that have been taken of people throughout their life. That's a little bit unclear to me. And then when their sort of like spirit passes on into his realm, they get the assignment to look for a picture for every year of their life in order to make a sort of lantern that then will be like their life flashing before their eyes. And they also have the opportunity to retake one picture, because they like to go back into time and kind of retake one picture. And then in that moment in which they're going back in time to take that picture, they tend to like share a lot about their life story. And in this book, we get basically 3 of these stories, and they are actually somewhat interconnected, as we find out when we get to the final story within this collection. I enjoyed the range of these. You had like the first perspective that we're reading from is like an older woman who is at the end of her life, has had a long and like full life, and is looking back on the time in which she was struggling as a young teacher in a post-war Japan where there wasn't much money to set up a nursery school, and like the efforts that she made to make that happen. The second perspective is then like completely different. It's like a Yakuza boss who basically had this sort of like fake shop that he had set up as a sort of like way to like legalize their going-ons. And he's talking about his experiences there with an employee that he hired for that. And that is like the main like sort of like iffy, unsure thing that I have with this book, because this has like a representation of a character who basically sees things like sort of like in a very restrained way. So he is hired to basically repair items, and he's very, very good at that. He's like a genius at that and can repair things very easily. But it is sort of like the Rain Man type character where he can tell you down to the minute how much time it will take him to repair something. And when somebody brings in like that animal, for example, to repair, he kind of like brings back the mechanical movement of the animal. And then they have sort of like a discussion about like that isn't actually bringing the animal back to life, and he doesn't seem to be able to really understand that. So I feel like this is probably like bad autism rep, or but I also don't necessarily always want to say that, because there are potentially people out there who have that severe level of autism, for example, or any other impairment that might have similar manifestations. But it is definitely a sort of like, it is never called autism, by the way, within the book, but it definitely is that sort of like extreme representation that we tend to see too frequently within media, rather than a more nuanced portrayal of what autism is like for a ton of people who have autism. So that is like my warning going into it, that it does have that type of autism representation within it. But it is also not like, it's not mocking that character. He does definitely, he is seen as a person who mainly has a lot of curiosity about his employee's way of seeing things, and about what his employee will do in certain situations. And then the third perspective that we're reading from is a young girl who is not dead, but who's basically like on the brink, and who has been on the brink multiple times throughout her young life. And so we find out what that is about, and there are triggers there for child abuse. And so this book didn't end up being as cozy as I thought it was going to be, but it definitely is like heartwarming, but it definitely has that hard section to read about at the end, because that story of that girl is definitely like painful and also very extreme of a case as well. So it can also be something that people will look at and be like, this is like torture porn to make you read about this, because this is a situation that is very extreme. And while I do think that unfortunately extreme situations happen, it is definitely the case that child abuse takes much more subtle and less extreme what I want to say, like forms, mainly throughout life. But yeah, I did definitely enjoy this one. I gave it like a 3.75. I enjoyed it. It has its flaws, but it also was like a really easy read and one that I got along with well. And then this morning I read the fifth one of the books that I'm reading like every day for the reading goal for this week, and that was Misters of Lies, which once again was a success because timeline and Fathom Folk have been a little bit issues for me to get through, and I've been reading less than the time that was allotted to me. With Misters of Lies, I actually read a little bit more because ideally I wanted to start my workday at 7, but in the end I started a little bit later because at 10 to 7 I was like, no, I want to start a new chapter because the way that the previous chapter ends makes me want to read the next chapter. So I read a little bit more in that than I had time for actually. So that's a good sign. It means that I'm having a fun time with that book so far, or at least I'm very intrigued about where that book is going. So yeah, yesterday I made some more further progress in the Silver Blood Promise, and I am definitely hoping to finish that one throughout this weekend. I am 76% into it right now. It is still going to be a little bit of a challenge, so I think I still have like maybe even 100 and like less than 150 pages, but definitely more than 100 pages still to go within it. So I do still have to spend quite some page count on it. But I think that on Saturday I'm going to try and focus, like maybe I'll give myself the morning to game because I've been wanting to game and I haven't gamed at all throughout the month of September so far, and I think also barely in the month of August, probably not even, nothing in the month of August probably. So I do feel due for a little bit of a gaming session, so maybe I'll give myself the morning to game and then like read the entire afternoon and evening, and then I'll hopefully I'll try to focus mainly on the Silver Blood Promise and on A Memory Called Empire, which I just started because I need to get down to puzzling. I haven't started this puzzle yet, so my activity goal is not looking great. I do think that the puzzle that I have at the moment that I still need to do is relatively easy, but I might actually want to go and buy a new puzzle because the puzzle that I have is a Jane Austen puzzle, and I kind of wanted to read Jane Austen while doing this puzzle. So I might tomorrow go and look for a different puzzle to do while reading this book, which will cut into my gaming time. So I might have to go and look for it right after work today, actually, and do that instead. So I need to look for an easy puzzle, meaning one that has a lot of colors and designs, to make sure that I can like get it done pretty quickly throughout this weekend. But so yeah. This has been like a really aesthetically pleasing shot, I'm sure, of like my head's like dangling in midair above Buffy, but yeah, she wanted to be included. Hello, it is Saturday morning. I've been listening to A Memory Called Empire while puzzling, and I'm making great progress on both of them. I think I'm over a third of the way into A Memory Called Empire now, which I'm enjoying, but it's got a lot of sort of like political stuff in it, and because of the audiobook, I'm finding it difficult, like remembering who's who because of the names being like the name is always like a number and then an object, and so I feel like I'm like a little bit over my head here now in terms of like the audiobook, but We'll see, we'll see. But so yeah, the puzzle is getting along very well. As soon as the puzzle stops, I'm gonna temporarily stop focusing on a memory called Empire, because today I actually want to be focusing on the Silver Blood Promise, because I'm 75% into that.
So, I'm actually... Ooh, this is not the way that you sit on this chair. It tells, because it's a rocking chair and it just rocks all the way back. But I'm currently contemplating whether I can make this like part of my filming setup. Because this is the room that I now kind of cleared out. So I have a huge space here. I have a ton of junk in here that I need to get rid of in some way or another. But in terms of its potential, this does have the potential to be a space where I can put lighting up, and maybe if I put like a strip, an LED strip on the wall behind me that can change color, and then have a softbox that I can put over there, for example, this could turn out to have some potential for being like really nice lighting. And cat, please stop yelling at me. The one thing here is, of course, that there is like nothing else on that wall, so I guess I would put something on there, and it would also mean like no books or something like that in the background, but I also very rarely nowadays still film with my library in the background, so that wouldn't really change all that much. So yeah, it is something to contemplate. This could be a nice sort of like double space, a space that I use both for editing, as for filming, as for my hobby, as for exercising. So the one thing is then I would need to figure out a little bit of a system where I can easily like store stuff for exercising, for example, put the exercise stuff like easily away, and then like the softbox, for example, I think the softbox location would have to be over there, which is where the door is, so it would have to be behind the door, but my cupboard comes all the way behind the door, so the door would have to be closed, I guess, whenever I'm filming, which, I mean, to be fair, it keeps out a screaming Buffy. But yeah, contemplating that. But so might as well, while I'm sitting here figuring out whether this is going to be a new filming location, talk to you guys about what I've been reading so far this weekend. So far this weekend I've been mainly reading a memory called Empire, which my cat, please shut up. And Memory Called Empire is a book, it's a book, yes. So Memory Called Empire is a sci-fi book in which we are basically looking at interstellar diplomacy. Basically we have this one planet, it's not referred to as a planet, but let's just call it like that, because I don't really know what else it is supposed to be, that is part of... Let's talk about it differently. Basically there is this empire, Take Salon I think it's called, that is kind of on a mission to expand and take over the universe, I guess. And there are a few places that they haven't managed to get a hold of, or to have a tight hold on. And one of these places is what I will refer to as a planet, but that isn't a planet, that basically they're not subjects of the Empire, they're considered barbarians by the Empire, but they're also not like in hostile environments with one another. And so that's, I really need to remember what the name of this place is, but I really cannot. Shut up! Me talking does not mean you get to talk, okay? So there is this place. What are you going to do? Don't you dare. Don't you dare pee there. I don't trust Ruffy in this room because there used to be a bed over here and she peed on it. So, man, this clip is... I'm gonna have to edit so much out of this clip now. But so there is this place that is... honest to God. I cannot describe this book clearly. Basically, it's about diplomacy between two places. One is a super powerful empire, the other is considered a barbarian settlement, and we are following the ambassador to this barbarian settlement, who basically has the consciousness of the previous ambassador embedded into her brain. However, she has an old version of him embedded because the ambassador hasn't been back for some 20 years or so, and so they don't really know what has taken place within that time, how diplomacy has developed within those time periods or not. And so she has been sent urgently to come to the empire to replace this ambassador, and so when she arrives she finds out that her previous ambassador is basically dead. And so the book is a lot about diplomacy and about political maneuvering. There are 3 people who are in line to the throne, and so there isn't a clear succession, and so it seems like she's going to be embroiled in some of the like plotting for different successors to kind of find a way to like strengthen their hold on the succession. Yeah, and so that's what this book is about. I've been enjoying it so far. I really like the cultural differences. The ambassador is somebody who really like admires the empire's culture and who has extensive knowledge of it, but she's also kind of willing to use their sort of like prejudiced views about what she is and what she will be capable of against them by like pretending to be like a naive barbarian who doesn't really know what's going on. This empire's culture is also very like literature based, and so they're very poetic in their use of language, which is also fun to read about. And yeah, so far it's been really fun. It's been like a lot of political maneuvering, and I must admit that I have, as I said in the previous clip, some difficulty when it comes to like remembering the different players, mainly their names, because their names are just like combinations of numbers and words, and so I tend to forget like, oh shit, who's this person again. I think for the majority, like for the main key players, I have their names down, but like definitely when they start to add the names of the 3 sort of like people who are in line for the throne, then definitely that threw me again. So yeah, but I'm like 40% almost into that at this point in time. I have finished my puzzle, so it is time to move on to the Silver Blood Promise. I do want to do some exercise as well still today, but G is going to be starting her sprint soon, and so I will be joining in those, and then I'll be focusing on the Silver Blood Promise throughout that. Good morning, it's Monday morning. I am not at work this week, I'm off work, so I can update you guys early in the morning on my final progress for Every Book All at Once week 6. I have just rolled for week 7. Things did not go according to plan. But so, week 6, I have completed the book. So, Saturday I finished The Silver Blood Promise by James Logan. And I gotta say, I really enjoyed this one. I ended up giving it a 5-star. It's very much an enjoyment 5-star. I think like, objectively speaking, this would be more like a 4-star or something like that, I think. Like, not objectively speaking, but if I'm more like conservative with my star ratings, and this is more of a 4-star rating. But I did really enjoy it the entire time, wanted to pick it up all the time, and so I was like, why not reward that with an elusive 5-star? But so I think the Not the Will of the Many. The Silver Blood Promise is great fun. It is an adventure story through and through. You are just like constantly shifting from one action-packed sequence into another, and there's definitely a lot, like in terms of conspiracies and planning and scheming and all of that going on within this book. But this book is very much mostly just that, you know. It's not a type of book. Typically what I enjoy reading in fantasy is just those like contemplations, morality, life lessons and stuff like that, or like huge character development and things like that. That's what like elevates a book for me typically, and this book has none of those things, but still I really enjoyed it, and I definitely want to read the sequel to this one. So I understand people who are like, this book is a little bit overrated, because I think if you hear like great praise for a fantasy book, or at least I'm automatically gonna assume for this book to be like transcendent to some extent, and this one definitely isn't, but it is really good and everything that it does, and it's a really fun ride. Yeah, so I was very pleasantly surprised, because this is a book that starts off with a murder mystery plotline. That is what it's like. Its introduction at the back is like, we have this protagonist Lucan, whose father has been murdered, and so he sets out into a different city based off of a clue that his father has left him to try and find his father's murderer. But the book definitely spends very little time on that part, on figuring out who is the murderer of his father, and a lot of times on a plot that is basically being schemed on within the city. So yeah, love it. Aside from that, I did manage to read the 5 books already, of course. I think I've updated you throughout the week on that, so you will have seen that happening throughout the week. The activity goal was to complete the puzzle, which I did. I'm about to break it down as well, to clear some space on my table again. And then I did yesterday evening managed to get to the 10% benchmark for all of the books that I'm currently reading. Exception there being Vilest Things by Chloe Gong, because I'm rereading Immortal Longings before going into that one. So Vilest Things is a book on my TBR that I'm not currently reading. Another exception would be the Dandelion Dynasty, which I'm not going to include in this TBR 0 project, because yeah, that's just an entire series in one go, and I don't want to, like, I've been told that I probably shouldn't be mixing this with all of these books at the same time, because that's going to be very confusing, because the Dandelion Dynasty has a huge ton of characters to keep track of. So I'm going to keep the Dandelion Dynasty for a separate video project somewhere in the future, probably only in 2025, because if God willing, I'm able to complete this project before the end of 2024. I'll still want a little bit of a break from a big project like this before diving into anything else. But so yeah, this week has been a good week, I think. I don't actually remember if I finished anything other than the Silver Blood Promise. Yes, I did, right? I also finished The Lantern of Lost Memories, at the very least. Because I was reading 21 books at the beginning of the week, I feel like, and now I'm reading 19. And did I start something this week? Yes, I started The Memory Called Empire, so I must have finished something else, right, this week? Or am I just completely wrong about the numbers here? You will know better than me at this point in time, because I hope that I've updated you guys. Oh yeah, The Sky on Fire, which I still need to check whether I talked to you guys about. So maybe there will be another clip in which I talk to you guys about The Sky on Fire before I actually end this vlog. But so yeah, it's been a good week, but this next week is really crunch time, because I've finally done the numbers on Magical Readathon, and I definitely need to get a move on if I want to be finishing my Magical Readathon TBR before the end of the month. But so yeah, with that, I'm gonna end this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and see you guys for the next installment of Every Book All at Once. Bye!